discussion is board updates and direction from council to board.
and they install that one ladder. So it's just the buildings at this point through Midwest.
Alright, objective 3, complete sewer collection system repairs, including jetting, repairing sections prone to backup, possibility utilizing American Recovery Plan Act funding.
Anybody have anything to say on that?
What is the expected cost of repairs compared to how much money we're getting from, that we already know that we're getting from the rescue funds?
Repairs to the sewer system or?
The sewer collection system, the sections from the backup.
I would have no idea. I know that we have a lot of outdated infrastructure, which is extremely costly, but I'm not sure to what extent the full cost or anything would be.
And I don't think we did.
No.
We didn't actually go out and solicit bids for this. We just, these are things that we know we're having issues with that we put on here as an objective
Right.
to address over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
That's really what this sheet
And you'll
is.
see that objective 3 with the sewer collection systems, and going here now to objective 4, complete the water distribution system repairs, including the replacement of lead service lines and upgrade of water main across the River Raisin. Possibly again using the ARPA funding. Again, I don't have a cost to it, but we know that these are infrastructures that need to be corrected. And so we just put them into this, into part of this objective.
But it'll be millions.
Oh, it's gonna be crazy high.
And our, the Rescue Plan Act funds are in the
Hundreds of
hundreds of
thousands.
thousands. So
Correct.
relatively speaking, a drop in the bucket.
Mhm, yes.
Well, we
No.
are tasked with removing and replacing lead in the village. I think objectives 3 through 6 were kind of a holistic view on that while the streets were open, while the construction was being performed. We were hoping to maybe figure out how to save some money, some time, reduce the effort. So
James, part of that $3 trillion that you alluded to in Washington, that I think it's already passed the Senate. A big portion of that was to go to communities for lead pipe
Right.
issues. So
Right.
hopefully,
So that's why, so hopefully we can get some of that money as well as the COVID money, for lack of better words.
yes.
Which that's approximately about 300 and some odd $1,000 is what.
Correct.
Yeah.
over 2 years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
341,000.
The issues with that though is we've got to have it either earmarked or spent by a certain date. So part of what we have on this list is like a bit of a wish list. But also projects that have to be done or projects that are within the scope of what you can spend those funds on. So.
So that was objective number 4, again, kind of going all of that encompassed together.
So I think what James was saying, 3 through 6 are kind of the same. Wastewater treatment plant.
Well, for clarifications for numbers 5 and 6, I just want to make sure that you guys understand this as well. This is something that we know as a board that we need to make sure it's real clear. The bond that the community that we are paying for is only for the wastewater treatment plant, okay? There are other parts of the plant, the area out there, I don't know if I'm using the right words there, Danielle. For example, the lab, okay? There are things in the lab that need to be taken care of and updated. And our bond issue is not gonna touch that stuff. It's kind of like the pool. And what I mean is this, okay? Our bond for our pool built the pool. But it doesn't take care of the lifeguards, it doesn't take care of the chemicals, it doesn't take care of the heating, et cetera, et cetera. Landscape, it doesn't do any of that, it was for the building itself. So the same thing's gonna be with the water treatment, wastewater treatment plant, it's gonna take care of that, but not the other parts, and that's where we're saying the roof repairs, including electrical panel, other things like that, the lab, that's gonna be there, so, again, where will all of that money come from? We don't know that answer as of yet, but we do know it's part of our infrastructure that needs to be looked at. You might want number 7?
Sure, so fill in the old pool site. And I'm gonna leave off the rest because I don't think they're doable at this point, but I think the old pool site does need to be filled in. I thought we had some backfill for that, from the new pool, right?
Parks and Rec Board, do they have any thoughts on that?
Under. What was the other guy's name? Under Joe, we had discussed the band shell idea, and we had provided him with I think he had actually come up with some drawings on his own, and not that that was what we were interested in, exactly his idea, but I think our advisory committee had voted that the bandstand type location would be beneficial back there.
Were the Parks and Rec, were you guys aware of the filling in of the old pool site? Were you aware that you guys were aware that was something?
Yeah, that would happen,
And where the
and
fill
then
was
what we
coming
would do
from?
on top of it, yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Not sure where the hockey rink project is, put that in there, but,
I did not type this up. But I will advocate
We were just-
for the hockey.
I think we were just kicking around that.
Yeah, so we're kind
yeah,
of.
we've already, we did that, we did surveys, this is what we've come up with.
Was it the bandstand
Yeah, some kind of amphitheater.
amphitheater?
Yes,
Right,
amphitheater.
yeah, right.
Where-
That was, yeah,
That was it.
But definitely-
But not a rental area. Like-
Daniel, if we fill in that pool, would we still have to have it insured?
So we, depending, yes, to some level, we'll
Okay.
have to have it insured if we're wanting to keep the building and you reuse that for something else. Depending what we put there, it'll be a different level of insurance. In fact, that's something I've been working on is our renewals coming up. So like we took the pumps at the old pool off insurance. But
If the pool itself was filled in, I would think that would lower our insurance. Maybe not.
I think it's gonna depend what we put there and what that looks like, what additionally.
But if we just filled it, we didn't put anything on it, I'm saying even
Yes,
if
I
we did.
do agree, it would reduce if we just filled and didn't do anything.
Okay.
But according to the donations given to us, it has to say recreational.
Right, and I think there was a DNR grant too, that was a part of that, correct?
Is there a time frame for that, do we know? So meaning this, so say we go ahead and we say as part of like a, just for grins here, 3-year plan, it's gotta be filled in regardless.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if with the grant or with that, okay, so it has to be filled in, just say 22. And then the building, build by 25 or something like that. I wonder if that would still appease, would work
What
with it.
DNR grant were you referring to?
I think there was one back way before,
Oh, so
or
not a
for the
current
Gale
one.
Gals pool.
Okay,
That
you're
was-
saying a past previous.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay.
I thought-
20 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 20 years ago.
Right, yeah.
It was about 20 years ago, and it should be about up. Because I think it was an agreement that it had to be used for recreational for like 20 years, and I think
I thought it was 100.
we're about there, I think. I'm not sure of the date, but it's getting close.
We were just told by from the donation from the Gale Gals Foundation that part of the agreement, if we ever discontinued the pool there, it had to say some type of recreational, whatever that might be.
But the pool's been discontinued for a
Yeah,
while now. I mean, it hasn't been in use for how long? So, I mean, it's kind of, running afoul of those rules.
Pool versus a pool in use are semantics at this point.
Yeah.
There is a pool of water out there right now.
You could plant grass or say it's a frisbee. Frisbee catcher.
Is that something we can do with DPW, or is that something we would need to contract out?
The filling in, I would have to double check Michigan regulations as far as leaving and backfilling. Definitely something that we can look into. I don't know if this is the time to have the conversation. I think these are all really good ideas. I would definitely overall, and I think this, it sounds like Parks and Rec Board has already had some conversations. Whatever we do here, I think we need to consider the long-term cost of whatever goes there. What I don't want to see the village do is to put something there that's going to be costly and impact our budget in ways that we can't handle in the future. So I'm not saying nothing should go there, just, you know, when we're thinking about what's gonna go there, let's think about some low maintenance things, or how we're going to budget for the long-term maintenance costs of that item.
But I guess if we could, if nothing else, let's just fill the thing in, because it's been empty for a number of years, and that's been on our list for the village, I think, for a length of time. That needs to be just kind of, let's get that checked off, so at least it's level. And so then,
And I will double check on the just filling it in, or if we'd have to remove what's there and see what that would take.
Thank you.
Yeah, just fill it.
yeah, just fill it, start, yeah.
Number 8, we have complete park maintenance and planned park improvements.
It's pretty broad.
I mean,
Right,
Parks and Rec has never been until we reorganized part of that.
right.
So now I think it is, so.
I noticed the Rotary Pavilion needs a lot of work. There's another pavilion on the other side that has like tape around because it needs a lot of repairs. So I think focusing on, and I think you guys mentioned it before about focusing on what we have and getting those up to where they should be.
Do you know if there's a list, Heather, for the specifics of the park maintenance, meaning, okay, so this pavilion needs this done, this pavilion needs this done, this playground needs this done, or whatever it might be? Do you know if Brent has it, or how that
I will
works?
check with him this week and see if he has a list. If not, we can create one.
I actually can answer that. I've been working with Brent on this, and he does have a pretty good list going, and we've got kind of that mapped out over the next 5 years.
Super.
Do we have a dollar figure assigned to it?
We do for most items. There's a couple that we are we are still working on obtaining, but we do have a dollar figure for most of it at this point.
Do you know that offhand? Total or?
I don't, but you'll see it on the 23rd.
I was just gonna ask when we'll see it, as part of the budget.
It is going to be submitted as part of the budget, yes.
Well, the reason I ask is I believe that this number 8, the planned park improvements included the walking trail, which part of that discussion was, and from my end anyways, creating reserve funds up into a certain threshold to continue to make repairs. I think I talked about $15,000, saving $2,000 a year over whatever, $2,500 a year till we got there over 6 years, and then continuing to.
So we would have the fees, like you're saying, Heather, to make sure that we can
Right.
maintain what we've got.
Kind of like the squirrel, and squirrel away in that idea. So that's the only reason I asked it.
I can make sure that that walking path is included. I feel like we have something on there, but I don't recall the dollar amount.
Yeah, thank you.
Ready for 9? Okay, no, objective 9 is to complete street repairs and improvements. And the DPW has a list of those always ongoing, and so that's just, we do it every year.
And that'd be, I'm sure we'll see what that is as part of the budget as well. Yes.
Number 10 is to establish and implement a comprehensive sidewalk improvement plan program. And that's like filling in all the gaps that are in the side, along the sidewalks. Kind of like people like to walk on, doing like a trail, but there are a lot of empty gaps in our sidewalk system, and we were wanting to fill in some of those as we go along year to year. And DPW also have a list of all those.
That, I think too, Scott, that, remember how, last Wednesday for the comprehensive meeting that was with McKenna? That was one of those things that was the sidewalk, that's why it was brought up as well.
Right.
Was that part of the sidewalk, so I know that that's on the radar for DDA stuff as well. Okay. Number 11, complete necessary repairs to the boundless playground equipment. Kind of the same conversation. Danielle, do you know if there's a working, did you and Brent have anything working on that? Maybe Heather, that's something that you guys need to talk about with the boundless playground equipment. I don't know anything about it really, what needs to be done out there.
Which one is that?
That's at Bachmeyer Little League Park.
Okay.
Barb had talked about the mulch and things like that.
I would work with you, Heather, on that because I helped do the playground and I remember some of the parameters of it.
Are we on to me? Complete necessary repairs to Village Hall HVAC system. And I think Mike was the one who's most informed about that.
And this is in the 5-year plan.
Yes.
With some cost estimates as well.
I did put it out.
Not for this year, but in the 5-year.
All right, number 13,
I have a
upgrade.
question. Can we go back to number 11? So as somebody on the Parks and Rec board, I wonder, like, where do we come into play with something like the boundless playground? It's at the park, it's already established. We have people on our committee that are interested in accessible recreation and, but sometimes like these discussions happen and it never comes back to us unless we're able to catch the video. So I'm not sure how that fits into the plan, but we definitely would like to be included in the discussion or have the opportunity to participate.
And I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I think that's one thing we kind of wanted to do with this meeting is to get a better flow of communication going between council and the various boards. So we're all kind of on that same page, so.
To kind of determine too, who does what, who's gonna look after the parks because, well, the playgrounds, because we haven't had somebody doing that. It's just kind of been Jim and
Right,
Yeah.
like all these
he
things
passes it to
happen
the
with
DPW and they might get it
but,
done.
Right.
like,
Right. Is it something that the Parks and Rec can have as part of their responsibility, for lack of better words? I don't know.
That's pretty, I mean, we can advise. but
Like advise,
that's been
yeah.
pretty
Oh, yeah, advice, yes,
We've
yes,
never, we've never been asked to, for Parks and Recreation, never really had any.
Right, when Bob and I were on that committee, we were just kind of advisory, we were never.
And Parks wasn't one of the things that were, I mean, I've been asked to look at stuff at the park, but.
Right,
Well, and I think that's where the
I think what we're finding out is we need more eyes on the ground coming to us with manageable projects, not only in size and scope, but also dollar or figure. So if there is something that you feel we can accomplish, both time and monetary wise, we've got to figure out how to get it communicated to the board and to Danielle and to Brent, so that we can start making these repairs little by little before they become these replacement projects. Keep them at the repair level versus the replacement level.
yeah, I look very much forward to working with Danielle on now that somebody's permanent, going to be here, and using our parks. But we've, as a Parks and Rec board, we've brought up lots of things with Joe and then Darwin, and it kind of just goes nowhere. You know, we have people complain about dog poop on the baseball field, and we say, let's put up signs. please use the dog park, no dogs on the field. An easy solution, and we'll work on it, and it goes nowhere. So like we have things that as a Parks and Rec board that we've discussed that we'd like to work on, but then it kind of just
It doesn't
stops
get anywhere
there.
else, yeah.
Like we talk about, there's no sidewalk going down or no crossing marks to go down to the park here. How are you teaching a child to safely go to the park if there's no sidewalk or no crossing to get down there? We've talked about making the accessible playground path go to the pool. To me, that's logical if you have kids playing at this one place to go to this other place. So we've had a lot of these discussions, but I don't know if they've ever made it onto a list to have something done about them.
I don't think there's been hence this is what this is all about, is how, what is the park and recreation? In my world, parks and recreation is exactly that, the parks and recreation. But when finding out from Eric, well, no, we don't have anything to say from the park. Well, what do you mean? You're Parks and Rec. What are you? Are you just the rec people? No, you're Parks and Rec.
In my mind, that's what we need to do, is take the Parks and Rec description and sit down and go over it. Add to it, change it, update it. We need to figure out who's doing this and this, but we can't do that tonight.
Right, that's not what tonight is, but
No.
it's to
This
know
is
that
just saying this is something we want to work on.
we know there's an issue.
Can that be a takeaway? Heather, that's kind of under your umbrella, so it'd be nice if the Parks and Rec board had a procedure or process to get an actionable item on our meeting agenda, so we could vote on it.
Well, even a description of what are their responsibilities? What are their options? What, if you're on the Park and Rec board, what do you get to do?
Right, and it's hard to, I know we have some vacancies on the board, it's hard to attract people
If they
when
don't.
there's nothing to do.
Mhm.
Oh, you can come talk once a month and.
What is it? Talk about what,
Don't
do
let
what?
go.
Are you guys still meeting just once a month? Or every 2 weeks? Or twice a month?
Supposedly once a month, and we haven't in months, so. Backing up to number 8, I'm sorry, I just thought of this real quick, maintenance, this is something maybe it's, timing's right now. We're doing the softball, Heather's doing the softball league down there now. We have a bank of lights that's out, did you get a phone call this week from a person that sent on Parks and Rec website saying, hey, it's dangerous down there, my husband plays, can't see the ball. I told him to call here whether they did or not.
No, I didn't get it.
We have a whole bank of lights out and it's not safe, and Heather and I have talked briefly about this. Back when we ran Little League there, we had to have those lights all on at a certain angle. And I know we don't have a truck to do that, but we rented. We had someone come down to do that, and it was a huge safety issue.
So in my world, that would be part of Parks and Rec to make sure that the lights work down at the park for the rec. If you're gonna be playing baseball, you should
But
know the
it's
lights
just
work.
dangerous, and I'm worried about, if somebody gets hit in the head.
But that's where
But
they,
people are talking about it and starting to get a little rattled about it, so.
but everybody complains, we need a process in place. We need a written process on how you take your complaint to the top to get it fixed. Lack of a better,
Well, as a
Freeze
village,
right
we
now.
shouldn't have to go to that, it shouldn't. Those
Well,
lights
prior
should
to
all
playing-
come on,
Prior to playing the games, you guys can check the lights.
I don't, that's not mine,
Are you guys playing at night?
yeah,
We are.
it's gonna be even more games, cause it's getting darker earlier, so.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, I'm sorry, I just can't keep my mouth shut at this point, because I was on Parks and Rec for 10 years or so. It's never been our responsibility to maintain or to even do any of the things that you guys are talking about. It's always only been, our function used to be just to advise, to bring up certain things to council, and then council.
Was it about I should say just part, was it parks involved, Chris, or more of the rec part of it?
Parks and Rec is a joint thing, but maintenance does not fall under Parks and Rec, not under the advisory board's responsibilities or anything. Am I,
You're correct, yeah, the only thing we really did, we would do a tree selection every year, which we haven't done, 3 years probably? We'd
Yes.
sit here and pick out trees,
Well, I think-
Professional
With
opinion.
Heather's position encompassing the Parks and Rec, I don't know if you're aware of all of that, Chris?
No, I'm.
And that's where some of that comes in. With the Heather meeting with the DPW about the maintenance of the parks, am I correct with that?
Yeah.
And so that's, some of that has transitioned in the last couple months.
Okay.
And so that might be where you're saying, why is this happening now? That's why it's happening, or part of the discussion.
Right, I think some of it was because a lot of these little projects were creeping up on us. Nobody really said anything, then all of a sudden we've got lights out at Ellis, we've got, there's a wasp nest over at the Boundless Playground, you know, it's all these little things that keep piling up that nobody really had oversight over, so that's kind of where Heather came in, and
Well, that's
she's
good.
been working with Brent and with Danielle to kind of get these things taken care of, so.
And that's where we're hoping that maybe a description can be brought up to date. So to understand, well, you know, what can the park, what does the park,
Yeah.
what is the Parks and Rec responsible for? How, again, how do you recruit people, and, well, what do you do? Well, you talk about the Parks and Rec, oh, yeah, and what else?
Well,
Mhm.
I know Jerry knows, because you were on it
Yeah,
for years before I was, so you know.
Right. But if we can get that out to the public as well, to let them know and to recruit the people, that would be helpful for the description.
Sounds like progress.
Yeah.
Hoping.
Back to the lights, anything, I mean, that's a big issue, I don't know if you guys realize that or not.
Well,
What can we do about that? Because people are chirping about it right
So
now.
does that fall under DPW at the moment, or
It did in the past, and I know
it did, or?
when we did it for Little League, it was DPW took care of it under the village. I wasn't a Parks and Rec, I was on the Parks and Rec board back then, but it was something that Little League stressed that you had to do.
do you know offhand, Daniel, if the DPW is aware of it?
But they don't have the equipment to reach it.
No, but are they even aware of it?
I think,
Yeah, I definitely think we're lacking some communication possibly. You know, it's hard to make sure that projects are getting done if we're not aware. But I don't know if,
You don't know whether they're aware of it either?
I did talk to Brent about it.
Oh, so they are aware of it?
He was out of town last week, so I have touched base with him about it.
Okay. And so then okay, just asking, because it sounds like these games, when is the next game gonna be played?
Thursday.
Will there be lights that are available Thursday? I'm gonna guess.
the lights work, it's just there's one bank out that makes
One
it
bank,
very,
okay.
very dangerous to see. And like I said, people are sending messages on the website about it now.
Eric, when you say a bank,
It's a whole
one whole pole,
yeah,
like, what are there, eight different lights up there?
I mean, not that many, but
Six,
yeah.
eight?
Yeah. And it's been a problem in the past, you know, years ago when we said we had checked it out before the season and we had to make repairs.
Was it working during the festival tournament?
I don't know,
They had them at night.
I don't think it was down there though. I don't think so.
But Heather, obviously, you're gonna have Brent
They
talk
have
about it.
been on and very recently decided to turn them on. So it's a recent issue.
Okay,
All right, we're going on to
number 13.
13. Upgrade DPW facility or alternatively acquire property, possibly Farber's property, and move facility to new location.
That's kind of like a wish list thing too, because to move the whole DPW,
It's already tentatively sold.
Blissfield manufacturing.
We were referring to the building across the street. The fire department was working out of there. That
Morton
little
building?
shed that, right beside the
I don't know how much of it.
the driveway for the Little League park.
And the property adjacent to the pool.
And those
I
are
want to
just,
check as to how much. I was under the understanding, I heard rumor, there was the office, all that on that side of the street, but not on the other side of the street, nor the parking lot that's in front of the pool.
all of this is just a wish list. This isn't
Right.
something we've checked into and said,
Yeah,
to
and that's
even
what-
say it's possible.
Well, I wouldn't call this necessarily a wish list. That's not what I'm calling it.
But we haven't
That's not what I'm calling it, it's not a wish list, this is stuff that has to be done.
It needs to be done, but it's not something that we've checked into the properties. We haven't gone to anybody to say,
Gotcha.
is it available, how much, nothing.
I'm pretty sure Pat's just selling the facility general across the street, is my understanding. Somebody already wants to buy the old brick building, is my understanding.
I see they ran new electrical in there the other day. There was an electrical truck.
To the brick building.
Yeah.
Is that you running around?
No, it was not me.
He's been working
I have
on
a
this.
question on this one.
Yeah.
Upgrading the current facility makes sense, I get that. What was the discussion in relocating it, or why was that? Just so I know, I guess I'm curious, because where they're located now is actually pretty central. In my opinion, I'm not saying it's the best, I've only been here a short time, but I guess I was just curious what the thought process was there.
It's been on the radar to move that for years,
Okay,
Just to get it out of
10 or
downtown.
12 years. We feel like it's in the middle of town.
okay.
And something else could be done with that property in particular.
It could be,
Nothing set in stone, but there's been just discussion of what else that property could be utilized versus having a closet in the middle of the village.
And with the addition of the pool, having DPW out there on that piece of property, we felt might be a good move.
Okay.
And I do believe I've seen developments of that property, the DPW, previously. Of course, basically a diamond in the rough, utilizing it for community activity,
Yes.
business attractions as well.
Yes.
That's where an amphitheater would be great.
And that's where I think, last week too, or going back to that Wednesday's meeting with McKenna, that's where that part of the discussion came from.
Yeah, that was brought up then, but again, when I came on board into the area here, it's probably been 3 or 4 years ago, I remember seeing developments
Mhm.
at that particular time.
Thank you.
Objective 14, repair or replace dead fire hydrants, including hydrant across from the depot. It's just checking them out and getting them replaced or repaired.
How do they die?
I have no idea.
The parts within them wear out over time.
I used to sell them a long time ago, I wouldn't think it'd be hard to play.
Some, I can remember when I was on the fire department, we had to go out and test pressures at each hydrant. Some of them did not have enough pressure coming out of them to be considered functional. And that one across from the depot has always been problematic. That's why I had a black cap on it for years. I don't know why, but it was.
Did you pull it, isn't there a thing to pull from the river though?
There's a draft hydrant over on North Lane Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also one over on next to Pat Hines' old office, there in the parking lot next to the park.
Number, next one's replace the Beagle Road lift station generator. This has been on our radar for years. We've had problems in replacing the generator, and we're in lawsuit with Generac, so hopefully someday we'll get that.
On the backside, we're gonna go to goal number 2, which is to promote the recruitment and retention of highly effective and talented staff and services. We can see that there's the first objective, complete the comprehensive classification and compensation study of all staff positions to establish a fair, uniform, consistent, and competitive compensation system to recruit and retain talented staff. And that comes from, I believe, a discussion that was held last year when Mr. Fry was on board, looking at the salaries wage scale there, Danielle. And it was something that basically it needs to be studied to get things in line, because there's a lot of things that cannot be answered of why this position gets this pay and why this position gets this pay with this much education, with this much, on the job,
Tenure.
tenure, things like that. And so it just, and
Are you guys wanting to fund a salary study?
that was something, Darwin had talked something about that, yeah, he said it was something that we should consider. Because of how it's set up and, just, it's janky,
Okay.
janky.
Do we have, every year, I found that we adopt the positions and wages. Do we not have like a pay plan or we just adopt it on an annual basis?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought maybe I was just not finding it,
No,
so.
and that's where, I think that was something that Darwin noticed as well, and that's where he came up with, we need to, one of those things we don't know, we didn't know.
Okay.
Cause that's the way it's always been done.
And it needs to be visited.
My least favorite comment, Jerry.
Mine too. I got you.
You weren't allowed to say that in office.
I like to move those things forward, but
But that's where that's
that is
coming from.
exactly right, though, that's why, because that's the way it was always done. I'd like to do it, maybe look at doing it a little differently.
Yeah, that one does make sense to me. Like I said, I've been working on the budget, so I've been trying to find some kind of pay plan, and all I could find was just those annual, which just is different.
It needs, well, yeah, it needs some work.
Okay.
Goal number 3 was to promote efficient and effective municipal operations and services. And they consist of reviewing the engineering services, complete labor studies of public works, police, and parks and rec departments, accomplish community goals and objectives without cutting services, complete cost analysis, and consider implementing water meter reader replacement program, possibly by section or district. I don't think there's a need for number 5. And I'm trying to remember why.
No, there is.
Review current village legal counsel and secure a new firm to represent the interests of the village of.
Because we have an intern right now, and
Okay.
we have discussed that we need to go ahead with the, getting,
Permanent replacement.
correct. Yes, Mr. Juvan.
And what was number 2? What's the intent there?
I think that probably goes back to number 1, under goal number 2, doesn't it? Labor study, wage study,
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't know if there was something more.
probably should have put that right in there with that first one under number 2.
Objective number 4 was something that we had talked about. Again, going back here to goal number 3, we recognize that the water meter reading replacement program is crazy expensive. We understand that, but that's why we said here possibly by section or district. And this is something that, it's not going to be done in a year or 2, but it's something that we thought that we should be looking towards.
Yeah, the cost analysis was versus the labor cost, current labor.
Yes.
Labor cost to.
Because that's what we're looking at.
Manually read
Right.
the meters.
Okay, I see what you're saying, like what would be more cost effective?
Correct. If it's cost effective to continue to do what we're doing, that's fine. But if it's something like, in a matter of 5 years, we have it paid off and, it would make sense. We need to look to that, to see which is the better route for Blissfield.
Okay. We probably definitely would be, I'll get exact numbers, but we did this in Rollins too, so I actually can probably pull some data, but it's about $115 for a radio read or an MXU. And you guys, there's so many different levels. You can do a fixed base station where it just pings every 6 seconds information to it, or you can do remote where you just drive around with a laptop, which would probably not take long with the size of our community, and it pulls all that data in. There's some huge benefits to that too. If James has a running toilet, it'll ping that and it's gonna show higher usage immediately, so we could call him and say, hey, something's going on. you went from 100 gallons an hour to 2,000. So, but that makes sense.
Thank you.
Don't change it.
Sorry to pick on you.
right.
You were in my line of sight.
You were in line.
Something about my toilet. That's two boys. Are we ready to move on, or did anybody have any questions? Okay, number 4, promote sound and prudent financial management. Number 1, we want to set aside funds for proper park maintenance and upgrades. Number 2, review water and sewer rate studies, make adjustments as needed. Number 3, consolidate miscellaneous funds as may be legally permissible to increase flexibility in accomplishing community goals and objectives utilizing available resources.
I'd like to talk to you guys so that you understand what number 3 is about. What we do is, and you probably ran across them in the budget as well, Danielle. There are several of funds that are out there that are for small amounts of money that cannot be utilized, spent, if you will. And we're talking like $250 in a little account, and another $100 in another little account, and a couple bucks in another account. And it's been on the radar for a couple of years of how can we go ahead and utilize that money. It's not much money, but let's utilize it and let's get it off the books, if you will, because it's doing nothing, you guys. It's there.
Because right now, I think we're only allowed to use the interest off of it.
Yes, and which is very minimal with that kind of money. So we had to ask our attorney, Mr. Jubai, to go ahead and take a look at that, and that didn't get resolved. So that's why we're looking at it, because it's not an efficient way to use the monies.
Most of this money is earmarked as well.
Mhm.
The specifics that the Little League I know is one, so if we can disperse the funds to the Little League and have a project completed using those funds, it'd be a win-win for our Parks and Rec, our village, and those who play Little League together. So that's what we're looking to do.
Objective 2 is obviously to continue with the water and sewer rate studies, which was something that had not been done in the past. And that was something that Mr. Fry had implemented with the suggestion from Treasurer Hudson. And that's something that obviously, Danielle, we're going to continue with is that to make sure that our rates are, we're not, again, it'll be part of our budget, but I think we can all acknowledge that how it was handled in the past wasn't the most financially
Agreeable.
no, it was not. And we do not want to get ourselves in that situation once again. And then number 1 is kind of what you were talking about, James, was setting up the funds aside for that maintenance. Again, we have the stuff, but we're not maintaining it. Whatever it is, we're not maintaining it. Whether it's the boundless playground, whether it's the pedestrian bridge or whatever it is, we got it, great, but we're not taking care of them appropriately.
Right, it's nice to build stuff, and like James said, with the walking trail, you've got to be putting aside so much every year for the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance costs for things when you build it.
And to that point, being a representative of the Rotary in town here, we have set aside $70,000 to go towards that walking trail whenever the village does decide to pull the trigger.
Can I interest you in a new bridge?
It could always be conversation.
Alright. Go on.
Okay, goal number 5.
For number 2, is there any chance our water rates will ever go down?
I'll be honest, from my perspective, I don't see that won't happen, no.
No.
In fact, I would look for us to get, I don't know what our budget looks like yet, but my assumption is this, that if our inflation rate is 3%, then our water rate is gonna go up 3%. If the inflation rate is 4%, it's probably gonna go up 4%. We have got to learn from our mistakes. And unfortunately, we, the people now currently, are paying for the mistakes. We are the ones that are having to pay the piper. And it's not fair, But it is what it is. But I hear what you're saying, Emily. It'll never go back to $50, to $100. That's not gonna happen.
I'd like to just say though, I keep telling people, we're not paying for just cleaning the water we're using today. We're paying for the water that comes from the river to clean it. We're paying for the water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant that we're building. Okay, we're saving for the next wastewater treatment plant.
That's true.
And we're saving for the next water treatment plant. All this talk about saving money to do repairs, we have to do that on the water and wastewater treatment plants because the state makes us now.
So it's not just for water usage, I should make it sound that way.
And it's a buildup of not doing things in the past, not saving for the new one, not raising the water rates as they should have been raised. So now we have to.
Also, a portion of that money we're saving is probably gonna get used toward changing out the lead pipes when we have to, I think we have to have that project started by 2025, if I remember right. So we have to start, in the village, the state has mandated that the village pay for that. So normally from the street to the house is the homeowner's responsibility. State of Michigan says no, the village or the municipality has to pay for that. So that's also coming, a part of that is also gonna come out of that money we're saving off of the water bills to help pay for that.
I still think down the road that there could be federal help and
Yes.
state funds as well to help the municipalities with that. That was one of the big infrastructure issues that needs to be, I mean, villages and cities really can't afford to do that on their own, but that's what they're expecting us to do.
Unless we pass it on to the citizens, which
Which we don't.
isn't really what anybody wants to do either.
I think the village of Petersburg pretty much has theirs wrapped up. They've spent the last year
Yes, they have.
Back to
on
the
the streets, so.
Back to the rates, we've never done a water or sewer rate study per se. We never did one before. So that was, it was a good in one way and not so good another way.
Okay, ready for goal number 5? Promote public health, safety, and welfare. Objective 1, improve cleanliness and make necessary repairs or improvements to the Pearl Street parking lot dumpster enclosure. It's pretty specific. Complete necessary replacement or maintenance of street trees.
Is that what Parks and Rec still do, pick trees?
Haven't done it in probably 3 years.
So who's doing it now?
Like DPW.
DPW?
I thought the citizens,
They do.
for new trees, you got a list of which
Yes.
trees you could choose.
I did that before this.
I know that Jim,
They had picked the 5.
I remember
three
that.
We picked 3 small, 3 medium, 3 large, or whatever categories,
Right.
small, large, medium, and large trees. And that was what they could pick out.
okay,
But we haven't did that probably 3 years.
I have another question about this one too. So I'm just curious if we're very set on the trees. I'm not anti-tree, by the way. But have we ever had any discussions about xeriscaping or trying to do maybe something different? And the reason I ask is the trees, again, have a lot of maintenance costs. We have some pretty large storms that come through the area that blow trees over and disrupt power service or block roads. Last week we did a huge brush pickup and then we had a storm roll through and we might as well have not done brush pickup. So just throwing it out there, I guess, as a conversation.
I think that Trustee Gunter would have a lot to say to you about that. And then I think many people would understand.
You're talking in the right of ways though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that can be, from one perspective, certainly can be discussed. I think that it depends on, you make valid points. I think those points have been made in the past. And I just think that, you know, Mike has had some things to say about it as well. He's very passionate about the canopy
Okay,
and the, of the trees.
okay. This was.
But he's not here, so you can do what you want.
Just trying to look at the maintenance aspect of
Yes.
things.
Yeah. And I think that there's nothing wrong with looking at that. I think it's something that needs to be discussed.
Okay.
But they're getting away, you can't choose sugar maples anymore. So, I mean, that's anytime that
Right.
there's a storm, it's all the old sugar maples that are breaking and falling. So the trees that you choose now aren't nearly as tall and they don't nearly have any maintenance other than picking up leaves. And some of them don't drop their leaves until February sometimes, which is a pain, try raking in February. Not yours either, the neighbors.
Goal number 6, promote community economic vitality. The objective is plan, design, and implement phase 2 of downtown wayfinding signage projects. Maybe Scott, you could talk about that.
Well, we actually talked about last week and the direction that we were provided last week is that's really more of a capital project or capital improvement project. Really wouldn't be in the DDA realm at this particular time. We have garnered some estimates, and just for a couple of signs, we're looking in the 40,000, 48,000 range. Just for signs at the beginning and end of 223 going through town. But through conversation with Danielle, it really should be more of a capital improvement project rather than the DDA.
In fact, that goal probably needs to say phase 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay, okay.
So now we can see like your update from Parks and Rec. Heather, do you have one, or I know you've been working at the aquatic center, and I just like to know how that has gone this summer and.
Sure. So really for the Parks and Recreation piece, we have, our last meeting was April 14th. So now what I want to work on is possibly changing the date and time of the meeting and seeing if that helps some of the board members be able to attend. We have, I've reached out to the River Raisin Watershed Council with Maya, who some of you have met through one of our log jam removals. But in speaking with her and talking with DPW supervisor, we have a lot of erosion issues through our park along the riverbanks, and I think that that really needs to be a focus to keep what riverbank we currently have and to stop losing so much. We have an opportunity to work together with them, finding grants and getting different companies involved in helping us with what we're allowed to do. So Eagle does regulate how much rock we can put down, what kind of plant species we should put down to help with the erosion problems. We also have our event that used to be in August, and I'm not, Blissfield on Tap. So the board did decide to change the dates, and that will be in February. So hopefully at our next meeting, we will start to discuss plans to have that event. We've also, I've met with Danielle and discussed the possibility of adding any additional programming this fall and winter for Parks and Rec. And then on the other side is the pool, and we are trying to get to the finish line, and that finish line has changed. I think you'll have that on the next.
It is
meeting.
on next Monday's agenda. We're having just staffing shortages with people going back to school, so we are proposing to close on the 29th, which is a week early.
I see you're closed, what, the next 2 Wednesdays?
We are, so originally, this Wednesday was supposed to be the Royal Roundup at the high school, plus meet the player night. And then that has been changed to the following Wednesday now, to the 25th. So we will have a majority of our guards are on a sports team, so they will be at high school.
How many Parks and Rec members do you have?
We have 6.
Do you have, James, we had talked last week a little bit after our council meeting about the pool and having some kind of a meeting about having council meet with just the discussion being about the pool per se.
Like an exit interview.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, and talking about the season, the membership, the good, the bad, the ugly. We know that the scheduling has been an obvious issue. I mean, you've shared that with us, and okay, we don't look for that to change. So how do we correct this? How can we correct this? Can we correct this? What do we do? You know, what was good, what was bad, and what wasn't so great. Because you said things, but I think that the exit interview, but literally just having a time to talk about the pool, because the pool is a significant amount of cost for our village. And you know, it was our first full season. So love to have something like that done. I don't know if we'd have to have a committee of the whole meeting or just a separate pool meeting, and maybe and having some patrons obviously come and talk about, you know, what their experiences, thoughts are as well. I don't know. Maybe when the kids leave, do we know why they're leaving? Are they given an exit interview of why they're leaving? You know, what have our members had to say about the pool, that kind of a thing?
Majority of them are leaving because of sports. So they're practicing multiple times a day. They're getting ready to go back to school. We've had a few go back to college. So those are their commitments.
But even talking about like the hours and the programs that are at the pool / whatever programs are not, you know, what the thoughts are. What's our thought gonna be for next year in 22?
I could definitely do that.
If we could do something like that, I think that would be prudent. I like that.
Just to talk about the pool closing, this is the first year that Blissfield schools will go back to school prior to Labor Day weekend, which is always the end of our pool season. So this year they go back on August 30th. Last year, they were scheduled to go, but I think they were pushed back due to COVID. So I think this is the first year, if I'm correct. I think that's why we've got to adjust our pool year end. One thing I did discuss with Heather was opening for the Labor Day weekend if we could get it staffed. So, and she was already thinking ahead and was already having that discussion with guards. So I think it's probably the new end date is when they go back to school, because like it's been said, they can't work during the day. The typical lifeguard is also an athlete, so sports begin to ramp up mid-August. Boys play football and soccer, and the girls play volleyball and cross country and whatnot. So it's just the new norm. Yep. But yeah, if we could get together and just get up to speed, so we know how we can support you and the department with the pool next year, I think that'd be great.
Greg, would you like to talk about the library?
So Glenn asked about how the library was established. So prior to 1935, it was a bunch of ladies and people that just got together and established libraries in people's houses and stuff before that. In 1935, we got a federal loan to start a library in Blissfield, and then by the end of 1936, the funds were gone. So then in March of 36, the village put a vote to the people and said, hey, do you want a village library? And so they said yes. And so when they said yes, it was based on the village tax revenue paying for the library. And that's basically the story since then. The federal part, we were affiliated with the library in Lenawee, but when we ran out of funds, we became a village library. So even though there was a cabal back there, well, I don't even remember when, the Lenawee County Library wanted to take us over.
I remember that vaguely, yes.
Yeah, so they said, because basically we shared services, we had a gentleman's agreement for years that we would be a branch of the Lenawee County Library, but not officially, because the village owned the building. The village employees were the library employees were village employees, so they had no control over it. So they wanted us to pay for them they wanted the building and everything else, and we said no. So
that's why we're independent.
we're an independent library.
Okay, all right.
So-
Okay.
So, but the citizens voted to have the village fund the library back in 1936.
So since that time, from 1936, that's just been what it's always been.
Right, and so
Okay.
we get Officer or Chief Greenlee, we need to pull more people over. Because we get penal fines from tickets. Okay, so when there's tickets in our in Blissfield, Palmyra, Riga, Ogden, the courts get to take some money, and the rest of the money goes to the public library in that district. So
Do you know what that percentage is, Greg?
it's small. It used to, when we first learned about this, we were getting about 36,000 a year. And now I think this year it's down to like 18,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the courts, it was originally just to pay for some administrative costs of the courts. And instead they're paying for everything in the courts.
Understand.
So
So roughly, it's about 18 grand.
18 grand this year, and then that goes back into, I think that's reimbursed through the library fund
Okay,
typically.
okay.
So,
See, that's one of those things I've always heard, but I didn't know if it was true.
so that's
How
why
true?
every time we see a policeman and my daughter and the kids,
You go
are,
to jail.
hey, we're getting
Yes.
money for the library. So,
And then, okay, so all right, and you guys, now you have a library board,
we're an elected library board.
right? I remember you guys were all
So
elected.
you give us the money and then
Now, why are you guys elected?
that's how it was established as a village library.
Okay,
Okay,
so that goes back to the 36 thing then as well.
36, yeah.
Gotcha, okay. And so not appointed, but it's always been this way,
Right.
always elected. Now, but Bob is not elected, certainly, Bob is appointed
Bob is hired by the library board.
by the board. The village has, we did, for lack of better words, we didn't hire Bob.
No.
You guys hired
The
Bob.
village, or the library.
Library board
hired Bob,
hires a director.
yes.
Okay, and then do you guys hire all the other people then that work there?
Bob hired them.
So again, the village doesn't have any say so on whoever Bob does that. So the board hires Bob. And then Bob hires the employees for the library. Gotcha.
The board manages the money that's given to you by the village.
Theoretically, yes.
Why do you say theoretically?
Well, because all our money is still in the village. So,
You submit your bills here.
yes, and then you pay. Otherwise, we could take the money that you give us and have somebody else do it, but we don't. You know, we choose to keep, because it all, like, Jim used to say, all our funds are all in one huge basket.
Sounds like something Jim would say.
Yeah, of course they are,
It comes right out of the general fund.
right,
Okay,
so.
okay. I see. So, and I'm not being flip here, so I hope it's not coming across that way. I've not seen a report from the library, like a, with, that came for
It's on a Zoom meeting.
for the Zoom meeting, but we had the, like a yearly meeting, you know, he says what went on for the year, okay? And that, he gave a great presentation, but like, is there a possibility where you guys could, or someone could have kind of a report so we would know what's going on? Is that appropriate, inappropriate? Okay. But is it something that can be,
So we used to do a newsletter,
okay?
but I don't think we do it anymore because everything's electronic.
Mhm.
I think what one's asking is if you could give a report to the council.
Yes.
I mean, we always hear from the planning commission and
Okay.
from Parks and Rec and from DDA.
When does that usually take place?
Usually the Second meeting
Depending on
of
the, I mean, Daniel, is there a particular time it would have to be?
No, the way you guys have been doing it is that the clerk and treasurer first, and then the others have been the second
Right.
meeting, but I think whatever meeting would work best for the library, we could make work easily.
So are you asking monthly maybe?
And I just because that's what the other groups are doing on a monthly status, just so, for example, somebody was hired or this is what's going on.
Oh, that seems a little much. I mean, I think we could do a yearly or maybe every 6 months. but-
I think a monthly would be appropriate. The reason I say that is because if our funds are, if the funds are, you know, from a village kind of a fund, that we're a whole big walking team together, that would be okay to do.
But you're not in charge of the funds, correct me, right?
Right. No,
We're not in charge of the funds.
that's the library funds, no, but the village does collect them.
Well, I guess I'm gonna speak up because I'm super confused. I did meet with Bob and Greg. I'm still confused. So there's 2 library accounts, if you will, or funds. Within the general fund, there's the library expense account that, so there's no revenues associated with this. That's just expenses for the library. And this includes wages, supplies, books,
That's the expense category.
power, yes. Now, there's also a trust fund within, and it's outside of general, it's on its own, and that's where the penal fines come in, any library interest, any donations. And then they have some expenses in there as well for different things, and those expenses, from my understanding, are dependent on the revenues that come in. But that doesn't cover wages, nothing, that's just, like I said, books, things like that. So I guess I'm a little confused because the village does fully, I guess, track and we fully expense the majority of the library account. The library trust fund is what the library board's responsible for. We don't really have too much, it's held within village funds or accounts, but it's not really something that we are monitoring. So I guess I shouldn't say, you know, we look at it, but it's really the library board spending that, so.
The trust portion, you're saying.
Correct, but the general fund portion is the most significant part of their budget, and that is, like I said, directly funded through village revenues. To
Property
pay for that.
taxes, that sort of thing.
Correct, yes. Gotcha. So it is unique. I'm not sure, I guess my biggest, while we're talking about it, is what I don't get is the relationship between council and the library board and what exactly each board's responsibilities are overall in the scheme of everything. You know, looking at if we were going to hire a clerk, then that would go through you guys, but then the library is different than that because of this board, but it's still village is paying those wages. So I don't know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It is definitely something that
Well, this
I would
information
love to
helped Greg
understand.
make me understand what was why things are, why they are from the 1936, you know, and it hasn't changed. It's remained that in that same
Because it's
format.
law,
Say again?
it's the law. When we, under the law. for
Yes, the village,
library,
yes,
that's
because
how
of
it
the
is.
vote, right, so, but what I'm saying is it hasn't, nothing's changed, I mean, the law hasn't changed, whatever,
No.
I'm just understanding that that's where it came from, and I'm understanding now with the board and Bob and the employees. I didn't know how all that worked, that's why I asked that part. And I don't know what our relationship is then either, I mean,
We pay the bills,
yeah,
I mean, out of the general fund. Right? I mean, they submit their expenses to Lisa. I mean, when we look at our bills on the first
right,
meeting of the
they're
month,
there.
everything's on there, so.
Mhm.
But when they buy books, it's coming out of the trust.
Not always,
Not
no.
always. Sometimes, but not always.
And I just don't know. I'm not saying it's wrong. I guess I don't
We're
understand it.
we're
Like,
all just trying to
we
get a grip
do,
on it.
yeah, we do pay the bills, but that's it, just because of the library board, they have different rules and not different rules, but they're definitely separate entity almost from the village, but they're expending our funds. And that's, I guess, again, it goes back to, I don't understand the relationship there.
But your board, you guys decide where the money's gonna be spent as far as, you know, the books, the magazines and that whole thing.
Well, yes,
Right,
I mean, we give Bob a budget to buy magazines and stuff,
Right.
but like we had to, go into funds to put in new HVAC.
And your new roof and all that stuff you talked
Right,
about.
yeah, so we have to do those things, you know, ourselves out of our line items and that, so. You know, we did the renovations to the library when we added on the bathrooms, we renovated that.
Mhm,
We
mhm,
used that out of trust funds, which we had a ton of money in that,
mhm.
and we did that. So, I mean, and that was us, we didn't come and ask for capital improvement or anything from the
The
village
village,
at
okay.
that time. So we just used funds that we had, that people had donated for, you know, and that's the thing.
And that's where the trust, oh, okay, that's,
Certain people donate money and say this can be used for programs, like the Phyllis Robertson series, we used to have series of things all the time.
mhm,
That was only appointed for programs. It couldn't be for capital improvements and things like that, depending on what people give money for.
it could be through memorial, it could be through any of that kind of
Right.
stuff.
If
I
it's
see
not
what you're saying.
stipulated, we can use it for whatever we want.
Okay,
Who establishes your operating budget?
We do, the board. With Bob.
And how does the village okay or approve that?
We submit it and say this is what we need.
And can we have a monthly update on how that budget is being appropriated?
We get it from the village.
Can we have a monthly update on
Who's gonna come? Are you gonna pay somebody to come every month?
that? You can just email it to us.
You get it every month.
We get it.
You get it. It's on the village, it's on the budget, village budget. We get it from,
Right, but we're just looking for a little bit of an explanation to go along with it.
explanation of what? It's pretty standard right there on that.
I'm not trying to argue with you.
I'm just
Greg,
saying, it says it right on the line item, what it
but,
is.
Greg, the other departments just come and give us a high level overview of what's going on in their departments. I guess that's what I'm asking for, Gwen's asking for.
So what you're saying is that you want to be over the library bill. That's what I'm.
No, I just like to know if.
So you have the opportunity to look at the budget from the library because it comes from the village. And we don't get it every month on time when we have our meetings. So sometimes it's a month late. Okay,
what don't you get on time?
Our budget, our expenses, our financials. Because ours is the first Thursday of the month.
Mhm.
And sometimes we don't have our financials.
For the previous month. So they don't know what they spent last month.
Ah,
So who does your financials, Brandon?
Mhm.
So you see how these are intrinsically mixed?
So do you understand where our funds come from?
Yes,
No, I think I do. Let me just make sure. So I'm hearing you say the trust money is from individuals per se. And then the other money comes from the village, if you will, the general fund. Okay, and that part of that general fund is part of the penal fines, but that's not the only part, obviously.
No, the penal fines are revenued in the trust fund.
Oh, the penal fines go into the trust fund.
Correct.
Oh, I misunderstood that. See, that's why I asked. Okay.
Well, I don't know if they've always been there.
it's all right. We can take this up with Bob, because he can come in or provide something periodically for us, so. I'm good with that.
All right, DDA. Have anything to?
Absolutely. First of all, I wish Mike was here. I'd like to publicly thank him. He was president of the DDA over these past years, especially going through the COVID year. Last year with him and Heather's leadership, the DDA was really a strong entity for the businesses in town. We're definitely thinking about them. And so if he's here, he's not here, but still would like to thank him for his contributions there. He's still on the DDA board, but he's taken a step down role. So as far as the DDA goes, I mean, outwardly, what we see the events happening downtown. The events have been successful this past year. Businesses have tied in to the events. People are coming to the events. Bottom line is activities happening downtown. So that's a positive. With the design committee, I mean, we've seen the beautification, we've seen the murals. We have the facade grants still going on. Again, positive things are happening there. Behind the scenes, what we're doing retention visits. So behind the scenes, what we're doing, we're going to the businesses, manufacturing, and starting with retail here pretty soon as well. Now we're talking to the business owners, asking them for their input, their ideas, how we can best support them. And we've been able to take that information and put it into our strategic priorities and best address those type of ideas that are coming out. And several of the businesses owners have been positive about what we've done and positive about the future. In fact, you probably see that with some new businesses relocating downtown here recently, which has been a positive. They're adding new amenities to their businesses. So they have a strong positive feeling as far as what Blissfield is doing, the village of Blissfield is doing, and what we'll continue to do. We're going to continue our efforts in looking at development. I know that Coach Light Plaza was a sore subject for a lot of people, but it actually turned out to be a very positive avenue as far as venture that we went down. We went and we did project studies, we had designs, we got out there in the front, and through our efforts, we were able to actually entice an individual to purchase. And then he's used basically all of our ideas so far. And I mean, he's done his own too, but he's used a lot of our ideas and he's very much embraced them. And as you can see, just driving by, I heard you guys just talking about earlier, Rex has been doing a fabulous job down there. And we're very pleased that we're really able to stimulate that. And so we're looking at other areas in the town that have opportunities to possibly go down that path again, because we see that it has benefits to the community. Our priorities again are to align the projects with transformations, strategy goals, have one or two specific measures in place and make sure that those projects meet those measures as we go forward.
What kind of measures, I was just gonna ask, what kind of measures are you using,
It
Scott?
really just depends on the project
What it is.
that,
Yeah.
as far as what we're looking at. I mean, if it's a downtown project here, as far as like the open building beside us, we're looking at being able to work on the program right now through the Maestro programs, where we can get that information about that building, get pictures about that building, be able to map that building, get sent out across different channels to entice people that would fit more of what the Village of Blissfield community has asked us to fill downtown with. We're working with individuals like Starling Lounge, you know, as far as navigating them, as far as where they might be able to obtain a liquor license and help them as far as not doing it for them, but giving them channels and hopefully be able to open up some doors for them so that we can get them back into, or get them to the business that they really want to be into, which is the brewery business. So little things like that, and then we would just put particular measures. Did we meet the measure that we're looking at as far as for that particular goal? The other part of it is just really about getting communication out there, what the DDA does. So coming in September, we're gonna at least have, you know, once a week, or excuse me, once a month, articles in the Advance featuring a business out there, but at the same time incorporating some of the information that the DDA is doing. We are also getting out into the public by holding our economic vitality meetings in public places. So we're doing that. I think we finally agreed just last Saturday of every month. We've had meetings we just had a meeting at Becky's over this past weekend. We've had it at Lena's, we had it at Starling, Nourish, and we're looking at holding it at Emmy's come the end of September here. So it's not as much, those meetings aren't as much as to have a whole bunch of people come to them, but it's at least the information, or we're sharing the information that if you want to meet with us in a public entity, or just come meet with us and have coffee with us, share a cinnamon roll at any time. You know, if you have the opportunity to engage the DDA, give your input, and can give us your information on how best we can serve you as far as the business goes. So we're trying to, or we're not trying to, we're going down that avenue to get more outreach to the community into the businesses, so that they know they have their support. Another focus that we're doing is we're really focusing on just really one major project this year due to really budget concerns as far as where our budget falls. But we have been able to garner a grant for $20,000 through the Michigan Main Street organization. We were actually one of the initial communities to actually get that grant, which is huge. Thanks to Heather and her grant writing, was able to really get us on that path there. One of the things I don't know if you guys really do realize is that over the past 2 years that she's been the DDA director, she's brought a lot of energy, a lot of ideas, and it's been just very positive as far as having her as director. So kudos to you.
Thank you. She turns red every time you say that.
I do, yeah.
She does. Well, it's the truth. It's the truth. One of the things, I grew up in a small town, Northwest Ohio. A lot of times I'll go back and visit, you know, family and friends and stuff like that. And driving through Northwest Ohio, my small town called Spencerville, Ohio, it used to be a vibrant downtown, small town America. It's not anymore. It's not because they don't have a support structure like the village here with the DDA. You go through other small towns on the way back up here, same thing. You see the same thing. But it's another reason with the outreach and getting that information out there to get individuals to realize what the benefit the DDA has had over the past 30 years in helping the downtown Blissfield and the authority area to keep it vibrant, keep it moving, to keep it as far as not being one of those towns that just sort of start blowing in the wind type of deal. So, and with all that said, we want to get that in front because we are also in the process of strengthening ourselves for the TIF renewal that will be coming up. So we're working with McKenna right now so that we can have a solid platform and solid guidance as far as getting that TIF renewal, so that we can continue on what we're doing. And backtracking on that one small project, so it's a major project, but it's a mini park downtown here. So we're looking at getting that redeveloped, so it's more vital to the activities downtown here. It's maintained, it's updated, it's something that it's just, you know, we feel at this particular time, based on surveys and input that we've had over the past year, that is the major project to go to. And plus, we have been given funds. We have at least $35,000 worth of funds that have been provided to us outside of tax money that we can utilize for that big project.
I'll be anxious to see what you guys think, the one big project versus several little ones. I'll be anxious to see how that goes for you.
Well, the nice thing about that, it'll allow us, one, we're looking at recruitment. So it's like August 19th coming up here, we have movies online. We're gonna have tables set up, not just us, looking at recruitment as far as getting the volunteer base. And even because we have room for 3 new members on the 3 new members of the DDA board, which we're open to anybody and everybody as far as entertaining that would like to be a part of that. And then, but there's going to be also other tables from businesses and community organizations at the Movies on Lane as far as trying to build our volunteer base. And that's another thing that we're trying to do, is build that volunteer base. We do a lot. We do a lot with the little people. So we want to build that volunteer base so we can be share the wealth, because it's fantastic when you're able to help those events and do things, because you do get a lot of, I mean, just a lot of good feelings as far as just doing that, and you meet a lot of great people. And then the second focus really is the fund development. So as you know, as far as having funds to do things, if you don't have them, it makes it hard to really be able to get out there and do what you want to do. So we're looking at doing a fund development, not just relying on the TIF, being able to almost be self-supportive down the road and be able to provide all of the essentials that we do provide to the business community.
You're talking about the sponsorship programs, correct?
Well, we have a sponsorship. We have a one-time ask program that will be starting again in October.
I think we're on August.
August? Okay, starting in August,
We meet
but it
Wednesday.
takes place in October.
We meet Wednesday.
Okay, oh, okay. And so we have that, but then we also have to really look at other agendas as far as fund development, so that we can raise more funds and look at things from a business point of view. I mean, you're talking down the road, like the band shelter, stuff like that. You know, things that we can use to impact that are big ticket items, but we just can't do it right now when it comes to just the TIF itself. And we have individuals out there that are willing to contribute to that, but we just haven't really tapped and knocked on their doors like we should. So a lot of positive things going on with the DDA, a lot of great members on the DDA. I mean, it's all volunteer, all of us here are. And I really foresee some great things happening this year and next year on the DDA.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Danielle, as far as any direction from us, with our conversations tonight, I'm sure that you kind of have gathered what's important to the council and some of the boards. So I really don't have like direction per se. She's, in her short time here, she's doing a wonderful job. And council, as far as I'm concerned, we support her 100%. Look forward to working with you.
Well, if you think of something, you know where to find me.
And I appreciate all the
Yeah.
folks that attended here tonight.
Chris, I was just curious, did you or Peg have anything that you guys wanted to share or say
I would
something?
like to say one more thing. I'd like to invite all of you to our retreat, which is this Saturday from 9 to 5, right here in our illustrious downtown. If you'd like to do a square, or if you know anybody who would like to, it's all free. We have vendors. May or may not be too late to become a vendor, but if you are interested in doing that, even it's also free. Call the library, and Autumn can fill you in on that. Chalk's free. Bring your kids, bring your friends, bring yourself. Come on down. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
All right.
Peggy, did anything that you wanted to say? I know that you. Well, you've been on the, with the library, a group for a long while as well, so.
Right, right. So it'll be nice to have it on the street again. Last year we didn't.
You guys did
Right.
a virtual, that's right.
Right.
That was- What did you guys call it, the stream?
Art on the feed.
Art of the feed, that's what it was, art of the feed, that's right, yeah.
All right, with that, we are adjourned.